Hey guys, this is Mr. V. I'll be doing a book review today. It's The Dark Tower, Book 3, The Wastelands by Stephen King. One thing you guys should know is that I always do a spoiler-free review, or at least as few spoilers as possible, which is why I actually will be looking down a lot because I have notes just to make sure I don't give spoilers away. And if they are, they'd be very minimal spoilers. So, I assume if you are watching this video that you have read the first two, Dark Towers. If you have not read those, make sure you go back and read those. But I assume you already have read those. So I'll continue with my book review for The Dark Tower 3, The Wastelands. I'll just quickly say what the book jacket says about the book. It's basically about, how Odetta's, two selves have merged they come up with the name with Susanna, and now Roland has two people with him. He has Susanna and Eddie, and they are all traveling along the path of the beam, as they would say. And they're going to be trying to get to the Dark Tower, but that in this book, it does also talk about how Roland remembers Jake Chambers, the person who he had saved in the desert, but then ultimately let him fall to his death. And how he is trying to reunite with him as he sees there is that they exist. They both, Roland and Jake, exist in a different world. So he is trying to get to Jake, and Eddie and Susanna will be helping him. And then, of course, trying to get to the Dark Tower. So that's what it says on the book jacket. Now, what I want to say about the Dark Tower, book 3, is first, I don't know if it happens for all books, I got it on the Kindle, but the one thing I really liked is that it had a multi-page synopsis. I forget how many pages, but there was multiple pages that gave you a overall synopsis of the Dark Tower 1 and the Dark Tower 2, so that when you pick up the Dark Tower 3, you know exactly where you're starting again. I liked it a lot because I am reading some of the other books that relate to the Dark Tower in between, so it helps to get back into the Dark Tower series, as I read The Talisman right before this book. So one thing I should say is it's a very smooth transition. It was a very smooth transition. I thought there was a smooth transition from book 1 to book 2, but this was also very smooth. They kind of summarize everything, and it's just taking place a few weeks later. But when you're reading this, the first thing I thought of was, the story makes me wonder, are they in another universe or a different type of planet? Or, I even wonder, are they dead? Are they alive? The book makes you think of all these different things. Like within just a few pages, it makes you wonder all these things, because there is so much that has already happened in the second Dark Tower book, Drawing of the Three, and it's like, makes you wonder, are they in a different universe? What is going on for every aspect? So, it is so amazing when you're reading the book and that is happening. And even from the beginning, that's what you're thinking. And it is, I just got to say, it is amazing. And the other part that is great is that every time, like, you hear names or phrases, for example, when I heard the name Susanna, it's fun because my mind, is wondering, as I had just talked about, is it in a different universe, different planet? But also it's going off in all different directions in that, like, will Susanna, merge as one, or will they go back to the two personalities, or what happens? Because what Stephen King does, especially in this book, he does a mixture of a lot of things to where, he fulfills what you sometimes think will happen. It seems like, hey, they're going to get from A to B, and then he fulfills it. It's just you go from A to B. And then there's other times where you're like, okay, they're going to go from D to E, and then all of a sudden it's like something happens in that path, and you think, oh, it's going to be a smooth transition, and then something happens, but then even when something happens, you think, okay, I know what's going to happen with that um, twist, I should say. I know it can sound confusing, but a twist will happen. Then you think you still know what's going to happen, and he throws you another curveball. And it is so amazing. And that's why I said, like, even when hearing certain names, you start to wonder, like, continually, like, all right, what will happen here? Or can something go wrong? All right, if something goes wrong, how will they handle the situation? There are just so many curveballs he throws at you, but there are times where he kind of just walks you just straight along how you think it's going to go and then throws a curveball. And, that's why um, it just makes it, and I'm looking at some of the stuff that it makes you wonder, like, even when, as I said, when you hear the name Susanna, you're like, is she going to break off in personalities? What's going to happen? Uh, what's going to happen to Roland? Are they in the correct universe? Are they going to somehow pair up? Or is when sometimes when you hear about an animal or they find an animal, you think, oh, is this animal going to turn against them? Is it going to kill one of them? Is it going to harm? And every single time, like, chapter by chapter by chapter, you just keep thinking that's going to happen, and it's very entertaining, and it's just, it is amazing. And he just does, yeah, right, he always thinks of very clever ways for things to happen, and then he just throws you a curveball. So that's always amazing. The other thing that was amazing about this book was that I always say, yeah, that Roland is a very interesting character. I think you guys already know that. And this book kind of solidifies it even more about his, like, how committed he is to getting to the Dark Tower, and it solidifies it even more. But it kind of like shows you more and more, kind of like book 2 showed you more of who Roland was. And this one even expands upon that. It shows you more about who Roland is, and you start learning more and more. And that's why I always find Roland himself very interesting. And this is book 3 of 7, so he's going to continue. But sometimes in the book you wonder, and even in the series, is something going to happen to Roland, and then his team is going to move on with Eddie and Susanna. Are they going to move on? They want to keep moving on. And that's why I said there's just so many things that it makes you think about for the Dark Tower. And and it's like, yeah, it shows that he is very committed. And I won't say the line, but he claims that he is more committed, he is mentally committed more to his friends than the Dark Tower. He even says it. But then he mentally is questioning himself, that is it the truth? Even when his friends ask him about the Dark Tower, he'd be like, I'm more committed to, helping you as a friend. But then Roland, without letting them know, questions himself, saying, am I more committed to them, or am I more committed to reaching the Dark Tower? And and that's another amazing aspect, that Roland's kind of fighting with himself mentally about that. So it was just I don't want to give away much about the book. As you saw, it was great, and I just thought the book was entertaining throughout the whole book. If you liked the Dark Tower 1 and 2, definitely continue with the Dark Tower 3. Now, I always rank my books on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being awful, 5 is average, and a 10 being phenomenal. Like, go and get the book, start reading it very soon. Like, go today and start reading it. Very few books make it to the 0 category, just as very few books make it to the 10 category, because a 5 is average. I think for the Dark Tower 2, you can go back and watch my review about that. I think I rated it 7 or 7.5. I rated it fairly nicely. I like that one. But the Dark Tower 3, it was entertaining throughout the whole book, and it just continues the path. And it was just, everything like just kept pairing up perfectly. And I would rate the Dark Tower 3, again, 0 being horrible, 5 is average, 10 being phenomenal. I would rate this book an 8 to an 8.5. I could see giving this an 8.5. I'm leaning more towards the 8.5 area, but anywhere from an 8 to an 8.5, which is based off of my standards, very high. Because as I said, very few books make it to the 9 and 10 category. But I would rate this an 8 to an 8.5 because it just continues, as they say, the path along the beam. It just continues it to the Dark Tower, and they throw a lot more in, and you just learn a lot more about the characters, and it makes you want to continue to read. You know, I want to go on to book 4 now, and I'm going to be starting book 4, and it just makes you want to continue. So again, 0's awful, 5 is average, 10 is phenomenal. I would rate this an 8 to an 8.5, which is very high in my rankings. If you have any comments, please comment below. I hope you click the like button and the subscribe button. But if you have any questions, please comment below. Thank you for watching it. Again, this is Mr. V, and I hope you go and read the book.